What's going on, everybody? My name is Hao Vu, and this is the Hao Vu Moto Vlog. Welcome. Thank you for joining me again. If you are a subscriber, if you've been here a time or two, if you're new here, welcome. Today's video is 10 things you must, capital letters, know about the 2021 Kawasaki KLX300 Super Moto. Let's get right into it. Number one is you're going to hear people say that it's underpowered. You're always going to hear people say 300s are underpowered, 400s are underpowered, 500s are underpowered. You'll even see some weird people who are saying 600s are underpowered, right? The power thing is always an issue. And no matter what, there's always someone advocating for a bigger bike. And there's always someone who says, no, this little bike is just fine. So as a beginner rider, as someone in the market for their first motorcycle who doesn't really know anything, this can be kind of confusing. You're like, what? And like even these little ideas, they can plant inside of your head little seeds that make you feel like whatever bike that you start with is going to be something that you're going to grow out of very fast. And it's just unfortunate because I don't believe that to be the case. And I think it's the wrong mindset to have and really won't serve you as a rider. As a new rider, if this is going to be something that you pursue, you're better off being safe. You're better off working on your skills. There's so many things that you need to like take care of before you worry about a bigger bike. And even understanding why you need a bigger bike and understanding what people are saying when they say the KLX300 is underpowered. So I always try to be objective here on the channel. I know nothing, Jon Snow status, but I still try to be objective and I still try to put my best foot forward in terms of helping someone who may not be as far along on this journey as I am. So here we go. This is what Hao Vu thinks someone says when a bike is underpowered. This is what I think they mean. When you have a lot of power, when you have 1000 cc's, when you have 600 cc's even, that kind of power is enough to dominate the streets and the roads, to put a passenger on, to put luggage on. You're never ever going to run into an issue. The road is always going to be your bitch. Excuse my French, right? That's just how I want to put it. So no matter what the flow of traffic is like, no matter how steep the hill is, no matter how much your passenger weighs or whatever, carrying gold bars, you're never going to run into an issue of power, right? You're going to be able to dominate any road, any time, any condition. Okay. So power. It's exactly that. It's power. Power has corrupted man since the beginning of time, and motorcycle power is no different. It can be addicting, right? It's hard to say no to that. It just kind of almost feels like you're bending the laws of physics. These things go so fast. It's a crazy rush, and it is fun. Don't get me wrong. It is fun. I'm not going to talk about whether it's safe or anything like that. I'm just going to try to, speak for what it is. It is rush. It is fun, right? You ride roller coasters for the same thing. People who have never been on a motorcycle before, if you like roller coasters, I mean, that's what you like, the thrill, the fun, the power, right? So when someone says it's underpowered for the street, that's kind of what I think they mean. I think they mean that there are some situations where, the road is not going to be your bitch. If anything, it's going to be the other way around on a 300. And I've tried to touch on this in some of my previous videos, the highway video, but, I know there are some guys out there who love their 300 and they might get offended when someone says, hey, your bike is underpowered, or, your bike is not good enough for the street. And, that just comes with being attached. You're always going to have people who are really attached to what they own, where their ego kind of gets involved. And that goes on both sides. The guys who own the little bikes and they're like, don't talk about my little bike. My little bike does everything. I love my little bike. And then you have your big bike guys who are like, yeah, little bikes are for pussies. You could never make it on the street with that bike. You have your Harley guys who hate on the Honda guys, right? You have your cruiser guys who hate on the sport bike guys, like everything. It's just, you got to realize that motorcycling, even though it should all be like we are all in this together, it's really no different than anything else. It's just nowadays everyone has an excuse to be divided and to feel like this is us versus them, and I'm right and you're wrong, and I have my beliefs and you have your beliefs and your beliefs are wrong. We can't get along because we have different beliefs, because my identity is tied to this silly little thing. My identity is tied to being a sport bike rider. My identity is tied to being a Harley rider. If anyone has a different opinion or says something offensive, then my peace is gone. That destroys my peace, and I have to get in your face and I have to tell you how you're wrong and stupid, and now my stress levels are going up and I'm all but ready to punch you in the face, right? That's how it is. So, just realize that a lot of the time when you're talking to motorcycle riders, it's because they're going to be attached to a certain thing, attached to the decision that they made, or the type of riding they do, or the brand of gear they chose. It's all a bunch of baloney, if you ask me. But as a beginner rider, just do yourself a favor and recognize that when you see it, and be the kind of rider who can just be objective, right? Try new things, have different experiences. Don't knock it until you try it. And there's nothing wrong with having your own opinion or liking what you like, but just realize if you don't have all the experiences, then there's really no reason to just, base your entire identity on like the first thing that came rolling along or the first experience you had. And there's certainly no reason to put someone else's opinion down or judge them for it, right? We can all live happily ever after on two wheels, believe it or not, guys. So I know that was a bit of a tangent there. I think it was very important and it needed to be said. And I'm going to be saying more stuff like that on this channel because, it comes from the heart, and it's things that maybe are not necessarily the nitty gritty about motorcycles, but it's just something that you should keep in mind. So when someone tells you something is underpowered, just kind of think for yourself, what kind of riding are you going to be doing? Where do you live? Because for around town, this is more than enough, really. The only thing that it's not enough for, this 300 Supermoto or 300 cc's maybe in general, maybe a passenger on there, or maybe some luggage. Maybe it's not the best for like a cross-country thing, but I mean, you can do it. You can do it. I mean, look what they're doing in Southeast Asia, what they do with those little 125cc motorcycles. Their whole family is on there, plus like half a jungle full of bananas or whatever, like spring rolls, whatever they're carrying around. It's crazy. It's crazy because they make it work. Right? Versus here, it's kind of like the opposite. It's always like more. I need the next biggest, brightest, shiniest thing. I need the most expensive thing, the newer thing, so I can, brag to my neighbors or be a big boss or flex on everybody. It's just nonsense, guys. So honestly, the 300cc is enough to get it done. Like, there's nothing you can't do on it. But whether you want to own and dominate the road is a different story. Because to be honest, on a 300cc, the more riding you do, the more places you explore, the more chances are that you'll run into a situation where you can't dominate the road. Whether it's because your passenger is too heavy, or just the load is too heavy, or the hill is too steep, or the flow of traffic is just too high for you to keep up with and have comfortable passing power, you're going to run into that. But that's just the nature of having a small engine. It just, you don't have as much power. And with not enough power or not as much power, you just can't dominate. Okay? So think of it in those terms. It's just very simple. So when people tell you that it's underpowered, just kind of, take that with a grain of salt and just realize what kind of riding you're going to be doing. And if it's just having fun in the canyons, if it's just around town, I mean, it's more than enough to have fun, and it's more than enough to just open the throttle and even have a thrill, right? Especially as a beginner rider. It's going to take a long time for you before you are going 70 miles through the corner, full throttle, and you're just maxing out the tires and a bike like this, okay? So wow, that was 8 minutes long just to explain it, number one. So we're going to really have to march through this, guys. I hope you're ready. Let's go. Number two, it's the cheapest factory supermoto you can buy brand new. Your only other options really are the Husqvarnas and maybe the KTMs have supermotos, but they're kind of more premium, more performance oriented. They're going to cost you probably $13,000 out the door brand new, right? And then you have your Suzuki DRZ 400 Supermoto, which they haven't changed in over probably 2 decades, right? Still carbureted, 5-speed. That could be a deal breaker for some people. It's $1,500 more than the KLX300 Supermoto. And, I haven't ridden one, so I'm not sure if it's worth the money. Just in my mind off the spec sheet, I would say no. I'd rather have, for $1,500 saved, I'd rather have the 300 Supermoto any day. So number 3, it's going to be the most fun motorcycle in the 300cc class, guys. I'm not talking about the 400s. I'm not talking about the 500s. I'm not talking about the 373s or the 321s. True 300 or under. Dual Sport and Supermoto are going to be the most fun you can have on 300cc's. Believe me on that, right? So whether it's Dual Sport or Supermoto, just are you an asphalt guy? Are you a pavement guy? Are you looking to lean as much as possible and get your thrills in those paved roads? And that's where you're going to be on 100% of the time? The Supermoto is the way to go. If you love the freedom of being able to go everywhere, nothing is off limits, which is really nice. The Dual Sport's going to be your call, right? So any Dual Sport, really, Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, it doesn't matter. These bikes are going to be the most fun under 300cc's that you can have. Not to say that the dual sport versions can't have fun in the twisties, because you absolutely can, right? You're just not going to be able to do the aggressive leaning. You're not going to have that huge contact patch of the street-oriented tire, right? So it's going to be a little different there, but you can still have fun and still have the option to go anywhere you want. So just keep that in mind when you're choosing between Supermoto or the dual sport with the knobby tires. Number 4, the tire selection is not great for this Supermoto. You're going to have maybe a handful of choices versus like something like a sport bike where you literally have hundreds of choices. Now, I know some guys have said you can run a bigger tire on the back, which would probably open up more choices. And this is not to say that you won't have, enough to choose from, but, that wide selection is just not there. And to be honest, as a beginner rider, you don't need to worry about the tires too much, because no matter what kind of equipment you have on there, your skills are just not there yet to max out the ability of the bike or the max lean angle of the tire. So you really just, as long as you have something safe and pumped up correctly to your riding needs, you're good to go. Don't worry too much about that. It's just something that needs to be said. Number 5. Punk ass kids are going to ask you to do wheelies when you're riding around. This has probably happened to me 4 or 5 times already. Kids are just going to ask you to do wheelies because they see this dirt bike, super motard looking bike, and they want to see you do a wheelie. I don't know how to do wheelies yet. I'm going to learn, but even when I learn, I'm riding through downtown and some punk ass kid asks me to do a wheelie. I'm probably not going to do that on demand. So far in my helmet, I've given them like thumbs down. I've given them the, the shrug, and they're generally pretty cool about it. Some of them seem genuinely disappointed, but what can I say? If I get like real pro at the wheelies and I know nothing bad's going to happen, I'll do it. But until that point, absolutely not even going to consider it, because if I mess up, I'm going to look like a total jackass. But there's just so much more to it that it's just, what am I really going to do for this punk ass kid on the side of the road, right? I would love to make both of us happy, but until that day comes, no on-demand wheelies. But understand that is going to happen. Number 6, this is kind of related. People are going to say nice bike. People are going to compliment you on your bike. When I was riding the CBR 600RR, I don't think anyone ever said anything to me in the 4,000 miles that I owned that bike. This bike, probably 7 or 8 people have said something or asked me questions, complimented me on my bike. Even guys that aren't on motorcycles give me a nod because they see this dirt bike with street tires. And a lot of people grew up with dirt bikes. They have very fond memories of dirt bikes. And when they see something like this on the street with street tires, they're just like, I know that guy's in for a good time. I know that guy's having fun. Or, dude, that's so cool. I wish I had one. It's just like, that's the energy that I feel when I'm on this bike. So be prepared for that. Number 7, this bike is just for the pure enjoyment of riding. It is so basic. There are no fuel gauges. There's no gear indicator. There's no ABS. There's no traction control. There's no anything, none of those creature comforts. The seat even sucks. The seat is uncomfortable. And the next thing I do is put a seat concept seat on it to save my little butt. But, it's just no frills, all thrills on this motorcycle. So just know that. It's a very basic bike, but the value is so great on this bike. And honestly, you have everything you need to have a good time. So don't even get me started on that this bike is too basic, right? It's just purely for the thrills. Number 8, it's very, 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 very easy to ride, right? It's the best kind of motorcycle to learn on, and it's very approachable with its low seat height. I mean, it honestly doesn't even matter how short you are. Unless you're like walking around like Tyrion Lannister, this bike is going to be okay for you. You can just have one foot on the ground flat. And, if there's a situation where you need to have 2 feet on the ground in some cases, I mean, it's light enough and easy enough to ride that it's honestly not an issue. So no matter how tall you are out there, don't be afraid of this. 33.9 seat height, you're not going to find anywhere close to that on the dual sports, right? You're going to have to go for this specific Supermoto, and that's why it can be really appealing to you short riders. Something so light, so fun. I mean, you're not pigeonholed into buying a cruiser or anything like that. Don't be afraid of the seat height, okay? If you're watching this, don't be afraid of the seat height. This bike is so easy to ride and very, very, very easy to learn on. This is the one you want. It's quiet. It's light. This is number 9. Quiet, light, comfortable. It's easy to take apart. It's just easy to live with. It's easy to have in your garage. It's easy to ride around town. It's easy to do an oil change. It's just easy to pick up if you drop it. Just so much. Easy to take off the plastics. Easy to steer. easy to be comfortable. It's just like everything about this bike is so easy to live with. If this bike was like a tenant or a roommate, it would be the kind of roommate who is so cool with your loud music, never brings any guests over, never cooks stinky food, right? Is always going to bring in your packages, like literally the best, right? The most low maintenance, just easygoing bike. So fun. And it's not boring, right? It's not boring. No one can ever say that this bike is boring. Number 10. It shares a lot of parts with the KLX300, so those parts are readily available. It's pretty much the same platform, so even if you can't find dedicated 300SM labeled parts, most of the stuff is going to fit from the 250, or even back in the day, they did do something like this, the KLX300SF, kind of like a Supermoto. It had more aggressive off-road tires on it, but it was pretty much their SM version about 10 years ago, give or take. So you can watch videos on that KLX300SF. But as I said, for me, the fender eliminator from TST Industries, it's officially a KLX300 fender eliminator, but every bolt and wire, it was perfect fit. Not one thing did I have to improvise or scratch my head or worry about. I mean, it fit exactly. I will say though, if you're buying that, the relay that they sell actually does not fit on the 300 Supermoto, and I would assume it doesn't fit on the Dual Sports either. The relay is a little electrical block that you plug in, and it makes the LEDs flash at a normal rate after you install the fender eliminator with the light, right? So right now mine flashes really fast. Hyper flash is what they call it. So until they come out with a relay dedicated for this new bike, I'm going to have hyper flash, and you are too if you install the TST Industries fender eliminator. But it's a great kit. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Honestly, that number 10 is kind of like phoning it in a little bit. I couldn't really think of anything else, but that is a plus, right? Because the seat and all the plastics, it's pretty much a direct fit. So definitely do your due diligence before you go out and buy stuff. But if you're wondering, oh my God, why is there no 300SM stuff? It will be coming, but until then, if you really need something, just rest assured that the KLX300 stuff is going to fit. So that's it, guys. This was a pretty long video to go into 10 must-know things about the KLX300 Supermoto, but I think it was a good one. I think we did really good here, and I think it's going to help out a lot of people with their decision on what to buy, first-timers to the motorcycle community, first time shopping for a motorcycle. Check out the other videos on the channel. Probably can help you out in some way, shape, or form. And as always, as we say here on the Halvu Motolog, as we say here on the Halvu Motolog, I wish you happiness, I wish you health, I wish you unlimited joy on your motorcycling journey wherever it may take you. Thank you so much, guys. I will catch you on the next one.